So golfers out there should never try to turn your shoulders in the backswing, because for most of us, we've got to be real with ourselves. We can't get a good full turn via just turning the shoulders. We can do something that a lot of the players used to do back in the day. Let's talk about Nicklaus's era, where you doing this movement will give you shoulder turn without you trying, even if you have terrible mobility like I do. And what this is getting more hip turn. So really getting that good coil, that good turn of the hips, even to the extent like we would see someone like Nicklaus, where their lead heel starts to raise up a little bit off the ground. We're seeing tons of tour players now start to implement this into their golf swing because of the benefits it has to turn. Now, when you turn your hips more, your shoulders naturally turn along with it. But when you turn your shoulders on their own, not so much. The hips don't turn alongside with it. So more logically speaking, we should turn those hips and we'll have a much easier time to get a bigger, fuller turn. So not only is it going to give you that bigger, fuller turn, which of course will give you more power, it's going to have good accuracy benefits as well. So more turn of the hips would generally allow you to have a little bit more depth to your lead arm and your hands in the backswing. So what that means, the deeper or more depth something has, the more behind you it generally is. So that means for your lead arm being a little bit more across your shoulder plane, hands being more, let's say, around your heels or ankles, maybe even behind a little bit. So that's going to encourage you to hit more of a neutral path or a little bit of an in to out path. So for your slices of the golf ball, really getting that hip turn in there, instead of thinking of shoulder turn, is going to straighten up your slice quite considerably. And again, not only that, it's going to help with a lot of you golfers who struggle with early extension, because a lot of you who struggle with early extension, your reason why is because your hips start to move towards the golf ball in that backswing. When you're trying to just get more shoulder turn, your hips at times will want to shoot forward. Now this is not for everyone, it doesn't happen with every golfer who tries to turn their shoulders, but a lot of you who don't try to do anything with the hips, you'll start to see some forward movement. Now if the hips have started to move forward in the backswing, you sure bet they're going to continue to do that in the downswing. So this is what we call a lack of hip depth. So just like we talked about depth of the hands and the left arm at the top, hip depth is also important. The more turn we have with our hips, it's almost like someone's grabbing our right trouser pocket and pulling it backwards, getting the hips to move deeper, more behind, where if the pelvis is moving in this direction, it's going to want to carry on that trend with that left side of the pelvis moving back and around, keeping you in good posture turning through. So lastly, it's also going to help with your transition. So that first move in the downswing with the lower body starting first. So if you move and you rotate just with those shoulders, getting up to the top of the swing, you're essentially not loading and coiling up that lower body. So imagine it like a spring. Your lower body is that spring. You're loading it up. Now what's going to happen when you let that spring go? It's going to spring back. Same thing. It's going to happen in the golf swing but with the hips. You load them up, you coil that spring. Now as you start down, what's going to go and what's going to unwind? The hips. So we always see players have a much better transitional sequencing when they start to turn their hips more in the backswing, because let's imagine the other way again, shoulders just turning, your hips are dormant now. So that rotational sequencing, again, that lower body to go has to be a lot of effort. You have to think a lot to be able to do that, where it can be a much more natural. If you get them turning in that backswing, they're going to want to then turn in the downswing and unload. So you're going to get more turn, more power, easier. You're going to have better hip depth, better arm, better hand depth, and you're going to have better transition. So what's not to like about all of that? So guys, a great drill to do to get this more hip turn is grab an alignment stick, put the alignment stick through the belt loops of your trousers to where you have a little bit coming out here on the right, but a lot on the left. Now we can see that hip turn as we're swinging back. So ideally what I want this stick pointing halfway to the golf ball at the top of my swing. If I need to lift up my left heel to do that, so be it. Would even probably more, gain a little bit more distance by slamming it back down again. We just don't want to be in a place to where we're swinging back and this stick is not traveling at all. We want that stick traveling. Look, my shoulders have just started to turn because of it also. So here we go. Let's hit one. Stick halfway to the golf ball at the top of the swing. Gradually get it there. And there we go. So if you enjoyed this video, click that like button if you want more golf instruction, just like this. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell button too to be notified every time I put out a video. So don't turn those shoulders in the backswing, turn the hips.